Some of the greatest collector cars in the world going up for auction next at the Vicari Collector Car Auction.
Sold! Sold! Sold!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vicari Collector Car Auction, coming to you from Dezerland Park in Orlando, Florida. Hello again, everyone. I'm your host, Ted Jones, and coming up, we're going to be selling some of the most beautiful collector and rare cars in all of the United States of America. Like, for instance, this gorgeous 1966 Plymouth convertible. Yes, it's a Hemi. That's a muscle car. This is just a collector car. 1955 Chevrolet, one of the most popular models, 55, 56, 57. They call them the Tri-5 cars. We'll talk about the engine. It's not the original 265 later on in the show. Right now, let's check in with Dave Dobson.
What a variety here at the Vicari auction. And don't let the old looks fool you on this vehicle. It's a 1958 Willys. Looks just like the authentic thing, except for the orange color, of course. We know that wasn't factory, but everything brand new under the skin here. 360 horsepower, an incredible sound system on this thing. It's built on a Ram Charger chassis, so it's rugged and ready to go, and we're going to see if it'll sell today.
Thank you, Dave. A lot of different cars here. You can see them lined up, getting ready to go on the auction block right now. There's a good-looking old Chevy, a GTO Pontiac, a Mercedes-Benz, and even a Bentley. Let's get started right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to beautiful, sunny Orlando, Florida, to the Vicari Classic Car Auction. Get ready to buy the car of your dreams. Let's go.
Well, Ted, you're going to see some ringmen in action here, getting folks to buy these cars, bring their bids up and up and up. And one of the ringmen here is the best in the business.
The championship that I entered and won, I won it twice in the same year. It's a World Automobile Auctioneers Championship. It's held in a different state at a different auto auction every year. A few years back, I won it team selling, and then I won the ringman on my own. The ringman's job is to communicate with the crowd, relay the bid to the auctioneer, to try to get more money, try to make the item you're selling bring the maximum cost it can bring.
Let's get things started right now with a very rare car, a 1939 Lincoln Zephyr, and already we're at $20,000, Dave.
Yeah, there's bids coming in from online. You see those two gentlemen there taking bids from folks on the internet. And by the way, Ted, $25,000 in this car already. Back in 1939, you could get one for $1,300.
There you see the online shot as the bids come in.
John Tarda designed this car. You can see the airplane looks on this. He loved airplanes. He was in the Dutch Air Force, and you can see how he followed that design on this. I love this car.
This is Mike's car.
Yeah, he bought it last time, remember?
41-2, internet you're out. 41-2. It didn't run, now it runs.
43.
You heard him talking about Mike. They said this is Mike's car. That's Michael Dezer, the owner of Dezerland. That's our host.
We'll find out more a little bit later on about Dezerland. Going $1,000 at a time right now. He wants 46. He has it.
46 and 47. I'm going to get 47,000.
47!
I know this, Marty, you couldn't build this car for anything close to this amount. Maybe, I don't know, 150 grand, 120 grand, something. I don't know, 46, 47, 48,000. Got it. You got to be 49, Peter. I'm on the internet. Got it. Now 50.
I want to talk about the design of this car again. Again, it looks like an airplane, something out of the future, even almost 100 years later. This was based on a design for the Century of Progress exhibition in Chicago way back in 1933. Just remarkable. This car's design still holds up.
Amazing that they're getting this much for a 1939 Lincoln Zephyr. That's Pete Vicari working with the bidder.
Got it. Now 58,000. Internet, it's all fair. 58. Got it. Now 59. 59,000. Don't lose it. 59 grand. You can do it. I want to get 58. Got it. Now 60,000. 60,000. 60,000. Got it. Now 61. Good Lord Almighty. 61,000. That's 60,000. I get 61.
Pete's bidder definitely indicated that he was done bidding. So they're still going on the internet.
And the reserve is still on.
And the reserve means that's the number that the seller has to get for that car. However, sometimes the reserve comes off, and you'll hear them announce when the reserve comes off.
63, 63. Are we all done?
Reserve's off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reserve is off.
That was the seller Pete was talking to, so he lifted the reserve. That means it's going to sell now to the high bidder, which right now is $62,000.
63,000 going twice. I have sold $62,000.
A great price for that car. Coming up next, a unique piece of automotive history. Dave Dobson has more.
You know, it's not the machine itself that fascinates me sometimes, it's the story behind the automobile. This is a 1958 Chrysler Imperial limousine. Now, the body was built in Italy, and this was called the Crown Imperial version of the limousine, dubbed as the world's most magnificent limo. And the price tag was magnificent too, $15,000. Back in 1958, only 31 of these were built that year. This one was owned by the Eaton family. You might know that name from Eaton Center in Toronto, the famous department store magnates. And it was used to chauffeur none other than Queen Elizabeth II when she came to town for the Royal Fair. We'll return in just a few moments with more from the Vicari Classic Car Auction.
Welcome back to the Vicari Collector Car Auction. Any Beach Boys fans out there remember the song Little Deuce Coupe? Well, this is what it was all about. A 1932, there's the Deuce Ford. Only they changed them. They're one of the most popular street rods manufactured anywhere by the aftermarket guys. This one, they did it right. It would originally had a Ford flathead V8 in it. They put a big 454 Chevy in it with electronic fuel injection, and believe me, it will get up and go. Beautiful custom leather interior. The most popular street rod ever offered is the Deuce Coupe, or in this case, the Roadster. By the way, with no roof on it, you wonder what happens if you're out touring and it starts raining? Well, they'll tell you, you just drive faster. And believe me, some of them do. The Deuce goes on the auction block right now. Let's see where the bidding starts, Dave.
Ted, this is a classic, and you know, a lot of them from back in that day, this is how I'd say probably most of them ended up. You're hard pressed to find one that's in stock condition.
Actually started drag racing these back in the early 50s.
25, I got 22.5 bid, asking 25 grand, but I never 25 more to give it 5, but I never 5, but I never got me 5, 25,
33, yeah, gotta be 33 net to it. It's a hard sell because they don't have a top, they don't have roll-up windows, don't have a heater. You know, you may as well have a motorcycle.
24.
They're trying to get the owner right now to lift his reserve, trying to convince him that it's kind of a tough sell.
I think it's debatable. A lot of folks would like it just the way it is, Ted.
Oh, believe me, these are very popular. As you can see, we're already up to $25,000.
Of course, this isn't the stock motor in this, but back in 1932, this was the first Ford to actually offer a V8 engine. Ted, it made a whopping 65 horsepower.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that same flathead Ford continued clear up through about 1953.
We have a new bidder. Now 31. Thank you.
Do it one more time. I'll drive it home for you.
Now 32.
Come on!
Make him bid again.
Remember last night you said I should have pushed you on that bicycle? Come on. I'm going to push you on this one. 32. 31.5. Now you asked me that. Why didn't you push me on that car a little more? You're going to ask me that.
More than I want to pay. 31.5, 32,000, how? Close bid at 31.5. See Steve on that car. Thank you.
Not every car meets the reserve here on the auction block, but that doesn't mean it won't sell. Dave's out on the floor, has more on that subject.
If a car doesn't meet the reserve, the deal doc, Steve Williams, is the guy to talk to. Steve, what kind of deals are you making once these cars don't sell and come off the block?
Absolutely. We put together a tremendous amount of deals. Say, for instance, a reserve was $60,000 and the high bid was $50,000. I'll work with a seller, work with a potential buyer, and we'll find a happy medium somewhere in between. If I got a bride and a groom, I will marry them.
Well, here's a great car to take to the wedding or maybe the prom.
It's an unbelievable car.
By the way, Ted, that Deuce is still available if you want to go buy that for the deal doctor. I'll take over while you run down there.
That actually was a pretty good price on that car.
I have a feeling this one's going to go for a little more. Now we're going to see where this goes, Ted. Back in 2019, this sold at another auction, this particular car, for $81,000. And we're getting there right now, $75,000 right now, but the reserve's still on.
What do you bet the reserve is probably going to be more than 81, Dave?
It's going up and up and up.
You in, Dave? Why not? We'll buy it.
I ain't giving that kind of money.
Get more.
Now, over the course of 9 years, they only made 132 of these. This is number 1, so that in and of itself makes it a collector car.
Indeed, it does. 132 limousines.
Yeah, 132 of the Imperial limos. And they were designed by Ghia, the Coachworks company in Italy. They designed cars for Alfa Romeo, for Fiat, Ferrari, of course Volkswagen with the car Ghia and many others.
Well, we're above that 81,000 number it sold for earlier, $85,000.
Take the reserve off!
Now the reserve has been lifted, so the car is going to sell, Dave.
87.5. He's the last guy. Did you get it? Now 90.
They're the original Hemi. A lot of people think the Hemi didn't come out until the 60s. You would be wrong. Came out in the 50s. We sold another one. Dave is down with the winning bidder. You may recognize this guy's last name if you follow drag racing.
What was it about this Chrysler Imperial that caught your eye?
There's two things. One, it's 25 feet long. So, I mean, obviously it's an awesome car. But for me, it's a serial number 1 car. It was the first one out of the series of 35 or so that were built. I have 3 other VIN number 1 cars. The first ever Chrysler 300 built, the first one in 57, and the first one in 58. So I specifically try to collect serial number 1 cars. And I sent a picture of it to my dad while we were here, and he goes, I'll drive it home. When you get a message like that, you just got to go for it. When he lifted the reserve, I was ready to buy.
How much does the history of the vehicle play into your decision?
In that case, the history of it didn't matter to me. The VIN number mattered to me. The fact that it was the first one and the fact that my dad loves it. My dad's 78 years old. Him and I are super close. We'll drive that car. That car has moved around and stayed in collections. You'll see it at events. We drive what we buy. So that's the part I'm excited about. People will see that car that have never seen it. And that's what the car hobby's about.
And of course, he talks about his dad. We all know the name. It's Herb McCandless, known as Mr. 4-Speed, with the Sox and Martin cars back in the old drag racing days.
Herb also drove for Billy the Kid Step. Coming up, a car that's a blast from the future. Back at Dezerland Action Park in Orlando, Florida, and the Vicari Collector Car Auction. Well, the famous Plymouth Hemi Roadrunner will be up next. One of the most distinctive things about this that makes them valuable is if they have that purple horn that went beep, beep.
I think that's somebody else's intellectual property. I'm not sure we're allowed to say that.
Actually, Chrysler Corporation paid over $50,000 to use the Roadrunner and $10,000 to be able to use that beep, beep horn.
Ronnie, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you just don't see many Roadrunners.
Not with a Hemi.
Right? Not with a Hemi. I'm going to do 75, 75, 55, I'm going to do 75. Got it, 75.
This one is very valuable because it's the one everybody wants. The big 426, 425 horsepower Chrysler Hemi engine. There you see the sign. It sold originally for $2,870.
That was for the 426. If you wanted the standard 383, that was a few bucks less. And it only made 335 horsepower if that wasn't enough for you back then.
Well, they also offered a 440 in these, which was a pretty powerful engine, but very underrated because of the Hemi popularity.
A lot of folks recognize the Roadrunner as the car with the big wing, the big NASCAR wing on the back. That didn't come along until 1970, so this was a few years before that.
That was called a Superbird, and they took the Roadrunner and put that pointed nose on it and that big NASCAR wing you were talking about.
95. Yeah! Thank you. Now 97.5. Can I lift the reserve?
He's wanting to lift the reserve, but it hasn't happened yet. $95,000 so far for this 68 Roadrunner.
And you know, Ted, I always love this stat. Back when this car was new, $2,900, like you said, and it's amazing to see it going up almost to $100,000 at this point.
The reserve is on. Gotta sell it. Gotta sell it. The Roadrunner is for sale. Somebody shout hallelujah. 95,000. I'm gonna get 95. 100 grand. 95, 5, 100. You're gonna get 97.5. The reserve is off. Last and final call. 95, 97.5. Here it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. Chevelle. 95.
That was sold at Vicari, brother.
Orlando, Florida. Congratulations, sir.
Well, the Roadrunner was an all-original car. Here's one. Is it original? Let's find out with Pete Vicari.
We have a lot of rare cars today. This one here is a recreation Duesenberg. It looks just like an original, but it's got a modern drivetrain. You can take it anywhere, go 80 miles out on the interstate.
I got 50,000. Here we go.
Well, great looking and very faithful replica. I tell you, they did a great job on this. It's beautiful.
It's an amazing car. In fact, these guys, you know, a lot of the folks here collect cars, and they were looking around and wondering if it was the authentic thing or if it was an actual replica, Ted.
The 1931 model was called the Model J. Believe it or not, back in the 30s, this car would run 140 miles per hour with a 420 cubic inch straight 8 engine, Dave.
I don't think we're going to see authentic Duesenberg money out of this. One of the originals from 1931 sold for $1.6 million.
Oh yeah, they go for well over $1 million. That original straight 8 engine that was in these actually was dual overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder back in the 30s.
Said over 120, right?
Yeah.
He's got 105 right now.
That's gonna do it. 105, 110, at 105, 110,000. 110, get it here. 110, 110. Can I do it, Timmy? 105, 110. Got it. 115.
We're well up over $100,000.
115.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes! Got it. Now 120. Can I lift the reserve?
The auctioneer's asking to have the reserve lift.
Lift the reserve. 115, 120, 120, 120.
This is the point of the auction, Ted, where I stand very still, and I'm very careful not to wave to anybody I know. I can't afford to take this one home.
Don't scratch your head.
I have 120, 125. Are we all done? Are we all done? 125. What do you say?
Yeah, but he's not coming back.
Hey, Peter, I got a man that'll bid again, and this man will probably bid again, but they want the reserve off now.
That's Michael Dezerland. He's telling me he will not bid again until he knows the reserve is off. He wants to know he's bought the car if he bids, Dave.
Let me get it neutral for you guys.
125. 125. Jim's got the money.
Are you ready?
22.5. 125,000. Let's do it. Let's lift the reserve. Let's sell this car. 125.
Michael's not budging.
Ladies and gentlemen, lift your hand and shout hallelujah.
No, he might budge now, Ted.
Here we go. Let's see how bad Michael wants that car.
Car revival. 130, 125, 130, 130. Got it? 130, 130, 125. You want to be 130, sir? Are you done? Are you sure? 130. Here it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. Bam. Sold it.
$125,000 for a replica of a Duesenberg.
How happy were you to get that for your collection here at Dezerland?
I own 3 of them already, and I don't have one with 4 doors that looks as nice as this. It's an addition to my collection.
What do you love about old cars?
They're beautiful. I adore them, especially 40s, 50s, 60s. And this was a replica of a 30s Duesenberg.
Does it mean anything less to you that it's a replica and not the original?
Yes, of course. But the original costs 10 times more. And this looks just as nice. So it's fine.
Well, the secret is safe with us.
Dezerland Action Park isn't just a car museum. There's something here for the whole family, as our Dave Dobson explains.
Yes, we're having a great time here at the Vicari auction, but there's so much more to do here at Dezerland. Florida's longest indoor go-kart track. We got bowling, pinball, something for the entire family. And let's not forget a $200 million car collection. We're going to tell you more about that when we come back to the Vicari Classic Car Auction here on CBS Sports. Welcome back to the Vicari Classic Car Auction. Ted, I have the vehicle for you. You can rent these here at Dezerland. The kids are going to love it too, by the way. And with all the cars lined up, hundreds of them here at the Vicari auction, you're going to need one of these to get from one end to the other, believe me. Woo-hoo-hoo!
Well, there's a ton of fun for everyone here at Dezerland. And if the games and go-karts aren't enough, how about a $200 million car collection?
This is a 1935 Cadillac that belonged to FDR as one of his presidential cars that we have in our collection here in the Great Gatsby room. This is only a small part of what we have here at Dezerland Park, Orlando. On top of just our auto museum, which is 250,000 square feet, $200 million worth of automobiles, we have actually 850,000 square feet of fun. We have the longest indoor go-kart track in Florida, one of the largest pinball arcade, 30,000 trampoline park, and as anything else, we have axe throwing. It's the ultimate man cave for everyone possible. As you come down for the Vicari auction, there's so many things here to do for all the family members that everybody will have fun on their own or as a family together. With everything that we do at Dezerland, we have buyers across the world. This is part of a collection that we bought. This is the Mad Max Ford Falcon XP GT, the V8 Interceptor that was in the actual movie for Mad Max that Mel Gibson actually drove. So everything as you see is original. One, it's Australian's #1 car, the most famous car for Australian, obviously. But you got a supercharger built in, flip the switch just like you saw in the movie, takes off, but you have 600 horse hitting those wheels.
Well, we're going to see more of the Mad Max car coming up as it hits the auction block. And that's just one of a bunch of cars being put up for sale this weekend. Dave Dobson has a beauty.
This is a fantastic looking first generation Chevelle from 1967. It's got the 396 under the hood. It's the base model, makes 325 horsepower. Under the hood also a quadrajet single 4-barrel carburetor. And of course it's got the red line tires, which are all the rage for the day. The things that are gonna really make this thing go. Big block engine under the hood and the convertible top. This thing's gonna fetch a pretty penny.
You're right about that, Dave. Remember, when the top goes down, the price goes up on all of these classic cars, including this beautiful Chevelle that's in resale red.
Sharp car. There's my man. I ain't never how much? My young friend on the front row wants to give $30,000. Now $30,000.
The 396 engine that's in this car was 325 horse. They made 3 versions, a 325, a 350, and a 375 horsepower. It had the solid lifters with the big Holley 4-barrel carburetor.
I gotta say that the 1967s were overshadowed by the Camaro. That was the new introduction from Chevrolet. But this is a forgotten classic by a lot of folks here.
Look at everything he's got there on the dashboard. He's got the original owner's manual, the original window sticker. All of these things make that car more valuable because it's very authentic.
It's money all the way.
Yep. Now 58. Now 59. I ain't never 58, 59, 58 bid. 9, 59, 58,
You sure? You need some water?
What do you say?
You need a drink?
By the way, the SS on this series of cars, both the Chevelles and the Camaros, stood for Super Sport.
59, 58,000, 59,000, now 60, new player, now 60, now 2.5, 62.5.
The tires you see were called redline tires or sometimes tiger paws. This car is very authentic. Notice the hose clamps, those are called tower clamps. Beautiful original interior with the bucket seats and the console.
Where'd my owner go?
Can we take the reserve off? I've got 60,000.
My owner ran from me.
62.5. 62.5.
You need the owner's permission to lift the reserve off here. Trying to locate him.
62.5. 62.5. I heard him.
Well, if they brought 70.
Gonna be 1?
I would get
Now 2.
I got 8%.
Oh, okay.
Now you gotta be 2. 62. Now it's 63. Now 63. 63,000. 62,000. 63,000. 63,000. And 3. Can we lift the reserve? I got 62. I'm asking 63,000. 63,000. We're talking to the owner. 62 million. How much was that? 62.5. Now 63. We have a new player. Now 63. Now 64.
I'm on 63 right now.
Now 64.
Now we got 63.
Now 64.
The ringmen tend to serve a twofold purpose. They're advocates for the buyers. They want to make sure that they're heard. They want to make sure their bids get in. But of course, they want to try to get those bids higher as well. So they encourage them to spend a little more money and make these bids go up.
Well, they also want them to understand where the bid's at and what the next bid will be.
Now 66. Reserves off. Reserves off. We're going to sell this car. 65.5, 66. 66.5. 66.5. Reserves off. 66.5.
You have to watch very carefully. Some of these bidders use very slight gestures. You see that gentleman telling the ringman, no, I'm done. I don't want to go any higher.
And sometimes the ringman told me these folks will communicate with them ahead of time to let them know what their signal's going to be to say yes to the bidder, to say no.
Buyer number 6 for 66,000. Thank you. Congratulations.
It's a happy young guy there.
The Vicari Collector Car Auction is an amazing organization. They're truly a full-service operation.
This is the engine room that runs the Vicari auctions, the office section. Over here you can get your car titled. You of course have to register as a bidder, and if you're not a dealer, you're going to need a letter of credit. Don't worry, if you didn't bring one, they can take care of you here. We've got Jill and Chad who take care of that business. They can get your credit set up. You'll be able to grab one of these cars and take it out the door.
Back at the Vicari Collector Car Auction in Orlando, Florida, coming to you from Dezerland Action Park. Well, here's one of the most popular cars you can find, 1967, the first year for the legendary Camaro. These cars came out with 6 cylinders, believe it or not, on a Camaro, but most of them didn't have 6 cylinders. Most of them had 350s or 396 big blocks. You could get them all the way up to 375 horsepower. As a matter of fact, a very rare Camaro, not this one, is called a Coco Camaro because you can have it special ordered from central office with a 427 installed.
In a way, you can tell the 1967. See that vent window there, the little vent window in front? That was unique to the 67. They did away with that in 68. 69, then they added the gills on the side to make that 69 Camaro look so good.
This one is set up with ram air. Now, that may have been added because those are not the stock valve covers that he's added. He's dialed this one up just a little bit.
You could get 3 packages back in 1967. There was the RS, that was an appearance package. And then the SS Performance package that had the 350, or you could get the Z28, which was essentially a racetrack-ready Camaro that had the 302 in it, and boy, it would move.
Well, it looks like the bidding is stalled. We're at 43,000. It's not moving. Now, one way to get it going again is by lifting the reserve.
The reserve is what the owner is requesting as his bottom dollar. So the reserve off means that the owner, when the car's on the block, he's second guessing himself and he's willing to lift the reserve because it maybe got close to it. So what he'll do is lift the reserve and sell the car.
There you go. When they hold your hand up, man, just holler. I'll do the rest. Now 45. Scoots in, son. Now 45. I'll catch him. You string him.
Hey, guess what?
What?
Reserves off.
Reserves off.
Hey.
So all you got to do, guys, is bring your car. People will bid. You sell the car, get a check, go home. Buy another car.
Show the Vicari way, baby.
So when you buy the car, just how do you get it home? Well, Dave Dobson will explain more about that.
All right, let's say you come to the Vicari auction and you buy a couple of cars, maybe more than that. You need a way to get them home. They thought of everything here. We showed you financing earlier. Well, transportation to get your vehicle or vehicles home. Guys, can you help me out with my minivan?
Absolutely.
Here comes one of the fastest production cars ever made by Chrysler Corporation. This is a 2004 Dodge Viper with the famous Chrysler V10 engine, Dave.
Yeah, that's an 8.3-liter V10. This thing is a monster. And I venture to say this is a rare bird because so many of them were crash-tested. The power-to-weight ratio was absurd on these cars, and there's no traction control, so a lot of folks could afford this thing to hop into it and end up wadding it up.
Hey, Tim, 47.5.
And I got to tell you, nothing about this car is about driver comfort. Hot tailpipes running down the side of the car, tiny little cockpit. If you were over 6 feet tall, you couldn't put the top up in one of these things.
This is the SRT Viper, and a lot of people say, what does that stand for? That stands for Street and Racing Technology. This car would have sold new for between $80,000 and $90,000 in 2004. Right now, we're at $52,500.
I mentioned the Viper, the hot pipes on the side. On this one, they're actually covered, so they learned a couple of things. Folks are getting burned on those, and in this model, the 2004, they ended up covering those.
I have a new bid of 56, is that right? Now 58. Now we got to be 58. Now 59. And 58, 59, but 58, 59 grand.
Hey, Dan.
58, trying to get the reserve on 58. Reserves off.
Gonna sell it. Gonna sell it.
58, 9. Now you can do
Another one sold. Another one sold.
Reserves off.
You heard him just talk him into lifting the reserve. Now, it could go up at that point.
59,000, yes or no? 58,000, 59,000.
These cars are very fast, so the insurance is kind of expensive on them, but they are very popular. Dave Dobson is with our winning bidder.
All right, Max, you got yourself a Corvette yesterday, you bought a Chevelle today, and you just got a Dodge Viper. What are you going to do with all those cars?
Drive them. Yeah, drive them.
Nice. Are you a pretty good driver?
Yes.
What is your favorite kind of car?
GT40. GT40.
You going to get one of those?
He's got one.
Yeah.
Of course he's already got one.
Welcome back to the Vicari Collector Car Auction. Our next car coming up right now is a Mustang, one of the most popular cars in the world. Still a lot of them sold, but this 1966 version is something special, Dave.
It is. This one's up for sale to benefit a charity called the Al Copeland Foundation. Al Copeland was a restaurateur in Louisiana and near and dear to Pete Vicari, who's also from Louisiana. Al Copeland died of a rare type of skin cancer back in 2008 called Merkel cell carcinoma. There was no FDA treatment for that, so money from this goes toward research to get folks with that disease some help.
Something you don't see a lot of. It's being sold with no reserve. That means it's going to sell no matter what it brings because it's going to charity. The Mustang, very popular, was introduced by Lee Iacocca back in 1964. They had 289 engines. They started the whole pony car, muscle car era, actually, back in 1964. This one has a 302, which is like a 289 bored out. They've replaced it because it has a salvage title. Now, salvage title means the car was totaled for some reason or another, and you have to declare that on the title.
And naturally, if you have a salvage title, you can do anything you want to the car because it's no longer going to be in original condition. I once toured Jay Leno's garage. I had the honor of going through with him. He told me that if a car is original, he's going to leave it exactly the way it is. If it's been modified at all, he's going to modify the heck out of it.
20 grand bid. How about 20,500? 20 grand. I got 20 bids. Somebody get 21.
500 ain't gonna make no difference.
21.
That's part of the fun.
21. Anybody else? 21 grand. 21,000. All through and done.
Hold up! Don't you do it?
I'm not. 21. I'm waiting on you. 21. 21. 21. And you get the car.
20,000 even money.
21,000. 21,000. 20 million. Now one. Now one. $21,000. All through. Hold on. And 21. And 20 grand. Now one.
Marty and Pete both trying to get the bid up.
21 grand.
Yes, I'm
You
sure.
get a nice car on top of that. It's going for a good cost. 21. 20,500. Oh, 20,250. Now 20.
Michael Dezerland here from Dezerland, also a bidder.
20,500. Hey. 20,500.
Told you I'd get it.
20,500. Every little bit helps, guys. Give me 20,500. 20,500. 25,000. Now,
I think we're done now, huh?
Hey, sir. 25,
thank you. Appreciate you.
Sir, thank you for what you did do.
Sometimes you win.
25,
Sometimes you lose.
And there's your winner, Michael Dezer.
That's a very good price for a 66 Mustang with a salvage title. Up next, a 1969 Chevrolet C10.
You know, for years and years, muscle cars have been the thing. As of the last 5 or 10 years, it's been all about trucks. The square body Chevys, the C10s, and of course, old Ford pickup trucks are all the rage these days. And this is a beautiful example, Ted.
Beautiful two-tone paint was in back then, and I like the combination of the light and dark blue. The small block Chevy, a perfect restoration. People really like these old trucks.
This is a 1969, the second generation of the C or the K model trucks. These were called the Action Line by General Motors back then. These were working trucks. The idea is these would be working out on your farm, but they had some creature comforts to it. They had AM, FM radio, automatic transmission as well, and the two-tone paint, and even the carpet was something that hadn't really been seen in trucks before.
They came with 155 horsepower, 6-cylinder engines, believe it or not. Two versions, the step side and the fleet side. Now you can tell the difference by looking at the side of the back of the pickup truck or the bed. If there's a step there, that's a step side.
And you see they're negotiating with the owner to see if he wants to lift the reserve on this truck.
Well, the Raymond will sit down and have a discussion with the bidder about this one, see if he can get it up off of $17,000. Once again, you can see that smooth bed back there on the side. This is a fleet side, not a step side.
Hang on a second. He's looking. He's still looking. 17.5. I'll look at 17,000. 17.5. I'll look at 5. 250 anywhere. Gotta go. 17 grand. 250. Last call. That's 17,000. 250.
Guys, we're wrong here.
Way wrong here.
You heard Tim saying we're wrong here. That means they were way off the price, way off the reserve.
Got it.
You know, depending on what geographic area you are, trucks just bring crazy money.
And Pete explained to us these trucks are bringing more money. Well, we're up to $17,250 now.
$17,250. 5. I got him. $17,255. I'll look at 255. 255. 255. Lift the reserve. $17,255. I'll look at 255. Anybody else?
Take the reserve.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reserve is off. 17,250. 25. I'll look at 255. 255. 255. I have 255. Anybody else? Fair warning. Going once, going twice. I have. Bam. Sold it. 17,250. Number.
And congratulations, that truck is sold. It went too cheap. Dave Dobson is with the new owner.
What'd you like about that C10 so much?
I like the style of them. I like the engine, the automatic, the interior. Yeah, real nice collectible truck. Nice model. I have a 62 as well, and a 36, all Chevys.
What's the pressure like when they're working on you, trying to get you to go higher and higher, and you're bidding against somebody else?
I put a price tag in my mind, and I stick with it. And yeah, I might go a couple of bucks more, but pretty well stick to that.
What did it feel like when they said the reserve's coming off and you had the high bid?
That's a good feeling.
Coming up next, an original movie star car from Down Under.
We have here today the original movie car from Mad Max, the one that was in the movie. People see the movie that they love, they get all excited about it, and people pay big money to have the car that was in the movie. And this is one that we're going to sell, and it should bring some big money.
Welcome back to the Vicari Collector Car Auction, coming to you from Dezerland Action Park in Orlando, Florida. Now, in addition to collector cars, we had collector memorabilia. And actually, he calls that automobilia, signs and gas pumps. But here comes the star of the auction right now. This is the original Mad Max car a Ford Falcon, or is it a Falcon, Dave?
Well, it is a Ford Falcon. It's based on the Torino in the U.S. Basically, muscle cars were killed off in the United States because of emission regulations and insurance, not to mention the fuel crisis. Australia carried on with those. They ended up with these Ford Falcons in '74, again, based on the Torino, and it's an odd-looking car with all the Mad Max stuff on it. This is the way it appeared in The Road Warrior, the second Mad Max movie.
Where are we going to?
Take a look, we're at $900,000 already on this original Mad Max Ford Falcon.
We talked earlier to Mike McCandless. He said the history of a car doesn't really matter to him. In this case, the history is about all that matters in this car.
$1.1 million. And the reserve is still on, by the way, folks. You'll notice that.
Now, there's some bidders on the telephone here from around the world looking to get their hands on this thing. This is a one-of-a-kind car.
You are the man. It's just embarrassing.
Now, Dave is down there with Pete Vicari. He's with Max, who's the general manager here. And he has a bidder on the phone at $1.5 million.
If you want to buy a famous car, I've got it right here now. I've got $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.7 million. Hey! $1.7 million, $1.6 million, $1.7 million.
It's D1.
1,800,000. Now 1,900,000.
$1,800,000 for this original movie car. And the reserve is still on, Dave.
I don't know what he's doing.
Just tell him to close it right there. Just close it right there. It takes 2.5.
We heard Pete Vicari tell us the reserve is $2.5 million for this car, so it's a no sale. And remember, you can buy the car after the auction if you change your mind and decide you want to pay $2.5 million. Meanwhile, a beautiful 1955 Chevrolet convertible.
Ted, this is the one you saw earlier. I'm surprised you're not down there bidding yourself.
Oh, believe me, Tri-Power, folks, that's 3 two-barrel carburetors. Looks like maybe it came off of the GTO with the 389. So, of course, it's not stock. That looks like original interior, reupholstered. Look at that black paint. You know, something about black paint, it has to be straight. If there's the slightest ripple or imperfection in black paint, you'll see it immediately.
And I've been up close to this one, Ted. You can't see it. It's perfect.
55 when you get 60,000. Right over there in the cap. At 55 when you get 60,000. Got 3 bidders. At 55 when you get 60,000.
Not surprised to see this at $55,000, but looks like we're kind of stuck there. The reserve is still on. Here we go, 57.5. We're moving 2,500 at a time. They're going to show you the convertible top works. This is a beautiful example of the 1955 Chevrolet.
62.5. Money's on. Can I take the reserve off? At 60,000.
They're a good shot of that small block Chevy engine with the 3 deuces.
62.5. I'm going to get 62.5. I'm going to get 62.5. 60,000. 62.5. Can I take the reserve off? Of course.
All right, they just lifted the reserve. That means this car is going to sell. Currently, it's at $60,000. By the way, the top of the line, you saw the Bel Air emblem. That was the top of the line back in '55. You had the 150, the 210, and then the Bel Air.
Now 67.5. 67.5.
66.
It's not too late, Ted. Raise your hand.
Same for you. 67. $1,000 is all you got to be.
We're at 66,000. It's close. It's going to sell. The reserve is off.
You understand? 67, right? 67 on 66.
The last bid went up by 1,000. He's offering this bidder a chance to go up by just 1,000.
So you want to do 68? No, 67, 68. I have sold the car. 67,000. Jim, sorry.
Beautiful example of a 1955 Chevy moves out for $67,000.
Well, Ted Jones had his eyes on that 55, but you nabbed it from him. What do you have to say?
I just wanted it, you know what I mean? Hope to sell it somewhere else.
Yeah. What'd you like about it?
I mean, a black 55 convertible, what's not to like?
Of the Tri-5s, do you have a favorite year?
55.
I'm with you.
And that'll bring to a close this coverage of the Vicari Collector Car Auction. We'll see you next time from Biloxi, Mississippi. So long, everyone.